Hi there, I'm Alira, at my sister's baby shower. I found out I wasn't invited. No mistake, no oversight, just a clean, quiet decision to leave me out. Worse, they planned it for weeks. My mom helped, my cousins came, and my name was never even mentioned. Then someone sent me a video. And what I saw changed everything. It wasn't just exclusion, it was mockery. So I left. But not quietly. And what happened next? Let's just say, turning the lights on in a family built on shadows? Shocks more than you'd think. What would you have done? I came home that evening bone-tired. The kind of tired that doesn't just settle in your muscles, it seeps into your chest. I tossed my keys onto the counter, kicked off my shoes, and threw my bag onto the couch. The microwave hummed behind me, slowly spinning a plate of last night's pasta. I didn't even care if it was cold. Out of habit, I opened Instagram while waiting. First, a few baby animals, then a coworker's vacation pic. And then, I stopped. Varel. She was glowing in a long floral dress, her hands cupped under her belly. The background. A perfectly staged backyard with pastel balloons, vintage lawn chairs, a 3-tier cake. The caption read, "Celebrating baby bloom with my favorite people. Couldn't feel more loved." The timestamp hit me harder than the photo. It was posted 10 minutes ago. My thumb hovered. I scrolled further. Cousins I hadn't seen in years, our old neighbor, even distant coworkers. My mother, front and center, holding a gift bag with pink tissue exploding out of it. But not one mention of me. Maybe it was a surprise shower. Maybe they'd forgotten to text. I tapped on Jessa's profile. Her best friend since middle school. She had 3 stories tagged at the same party. One said, "Been planning this for weeks. Varel deserves the world." Another showed a custom welcome sign, "Welcome to Baby Bloom's garden." So, no, it wasn't last minute. It wasn't a slip-up. It was deliberate. I tried not to react. I typed a message to Jessa. "Didn't know there was a baby shower today." She replied right away, a selfie, holding a plastic champagne flute clearly mid-laugh. "I thought you didn't like baby showers?" That's what Varel said, LOL. That LOL felt like a slap. I didn't respond. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. My microwave beeped, but I didn't move. I wasn't hungry anymore. I sat down, the phone still in my hand. The room was silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator. A memory surfaced. Me sitting on my bed at 17, holding Varel while she sobbed about her first heartbreak. I'd stroked her hair, whispered, "You're not alone." Now she'd told people I didn't like being there, that I wouldn't have wanted to come. Not only had she excluded me, she'd rewritten who I was. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there in that awful stillness, breathing shallow, frozen between disbelief and something that felt dangerously close to resolve. She had made her decision. I just hadn't made mine yet. I don't remember standing up, but somehow I ended up pacing my apartment. My dinner still sat on the table, cold and forgotten, while my thoughts spiraled louder than any alarm. The silence in the room wasn't comforting anymore. It was sharp, thick, accusing. I didn't want to call her. I shouldn't have. But my fingers moved anyway. The phone rang twice before Maris answered, sounding cheery, like it was any other evening. "Hi, sweetheart. Everything okay?" I blinked. "I saw the baby shower," I said, voice flat. "I didn't know there was one today." There was a pause, not long enough to sound surprised, just enough to sound calculated. "Oh, honey, I thought you were working. Varel mentioned you wouldn't be into it, and I didn't want to bother you if you were busy." That tone, sweet like syrup but dense with deflection. "You didn't think to ask me?" I asked. "I've literally been home all day." She let out a tiny chuckle. "You've always said you don't like big crowds. I figured you'd appreciate the space." Space? This wasn't space, it was erasure. "You invited every cousin we haven't seen since before the pandemic," I said quietly. "Oh, come on," she said with a light scoff. "Don't be so dramatic. It was just a silly shower." There it was. That phrase again. Just silly. Nothing. That's what I was to them. Nothing serious enough to be considered. "I gotta go," I said before I hung up. I sat back down, not out of exhaustion this time, but to keep from breaking something. My fingers moved again. I texted my cousin Molly. Did you go to the shower today? Her reply came in seconds. Of course! We've been planning it on the family group chat for weeks, lol. My heart skipped. What group chat? Another pause. Then she sent a screenshot. Operation Baby Bliss. 20 members. My mother, Varel, aunts, even an uncle who lives in Maine. But not me. Photos of centerpiece mock-ups, jokes about the registry, polls for games, weeks of planning, all while pretending I didn't exist. Molly sent a final message. Wait, you're not in it? I didn't reply. Instead, I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone. I looked tired. But under the fatigue, something else lived behind my eyes. Something sharper. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd removed me. And I wasn't going to keep pretending not to notice. I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. I lay on my back staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the soft click of each slow rotation like a metronome for my thoughts. And one memory wouldn't let go. It was from 3 months ago, on a Wednesday. I'd called my mom that morning, careful with my tone. Hey, I've got that conference in Raleigh next week. It's just 3 days. Could you stay at my place? Feed Luna? I'll leave everything ready. There was a pause, followed by a long, pity-laced sigh. Oh, honey, my knees have been awful. Just going up and down the stairs kills me. I wish I could, really. I'd said it was okay. I told her I'd make other arrangements. And I did. I paid a sitter, left frozen meals, rushed home between sessions on FaceTime to check the cameras. It wasn't the help I needed that stung. It was the refusal without even a blink. I wouldn't have thought about it again, except that 2 days into that trip, I opened Instagram. Varel had posted a boomerang of them doing prenatal yoga. In Miami. Mom flew in for my yoga class. So spoiled. I stared at the screen, unsure if I was misreading. The geotag didn't lie. She had flown 3 hours south. The same woman who couldn't walk up the steps in my apartment had put on leggings and joined a stretching circle, arms draped around her younger daughter like they were best friends in a wellness retreat. She looked happy, energized, pleased with herself. I never said a word about it. Not to her. Not to Varel. Not even to myself. I just let it file itself away with the rest of the things I wasn't allowed to feel. But tonight, after the call, the group chat, the glassy smiles, and the "we thought you were busy," tonight, that memory burned differently. This wasn't oversight. This wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing. And over again, she'd chosen someone else. By the time I reached the venue, the sun had dipped low, casting long shadows over the white gravel driveway. Fairy lights strung through the trees glowed faintly like they were holding their breath. My heels clicked against the path as I approached the garden house, where the celebration still buzzed softly behind glass doors. I stepped inside without a word. The room was warm, over-decorated, soft pinks, gold accents, low music playing something acoustic. Conversations hushed. People turned. Some stared longer than they meant to. Others smiled with polite confusion, unsure whether to wave or wait for someone else to do it first. Varel spotted me. Her smile was fast, strained. "Wow," she said too loud. "You made it after all." I didn't answer. I just let my eyes find Maris, standing near the drink table, sipping from a glass of lemonade like nothing was wrong. She pretended to be adjusting a flower vase. It wasn't just the missing name on a list. It was the way they all shifted, rearranged themselves as I arrived, like I'd entered a play during the wrong act. I took a few more steps. No one asked me to sit. No one offered me a drink. I wasn't part of the plan, and everyone knew it. That's when she appeared. Thalia, Varel's mother-in-law, graceful and curious. She walked over, balancing a champagne flute. "You're Alira, right?" she said kindly. "Varel's sister?" I nodded once. She smiled, then turned to Varel. "I didn't see her name on the seating chart. Was that a mistake?" A visible beat passed. Varel blinked, then said, "We weren't sure if she was coming. It was all last minute." Thalia's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. "Oh? I thought you said the RSVPs were locked weeks ago." The room tensed. Someone coughed. Someone else looked away. I smiled slightly. Not smug, just steady. "I just came to see it for myself," I said. Then I turned to my mother. Don't worry, I won't stay long. Maris's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The party hadn't stopped, but the air had shifted. And for once, I wasn't the one scrambling to explain myself. I walked toward the edge of the garden where the crowd thinned, needing distance from the manufactured smiles. That's when I saw Kara near the dessert table, swirling her drink with a straw she didn't seem interested in using. She glanced up, then over her shoulder, and approached like someone tiptoeing into a room full of glass. Hey, she said, voice low. Didn't think I'd see you here. Yeah, I said, half smiling. Neither did they. Kara exhaled softly. She ever tell you why she stopped talking to me last year? I turned toward her fully now. I assumed life got busy. Varel said you were overwhelmed. She gave a small laugh, bitter. One argument. That's all it took. Next thing I know, she's calling me emotionally draining in a group chat I didn't even know I'd been removed from. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. She's got this way, Kara went on. Makes people believe they're making the decision, but she's already written the script. I nodded slowly. You're not the only one. Kara touched my elbow gently. You're not crazy, Alara. You're just inconvenient to the version of her people like best. She left me standing there, the words settling deep, like dust on old glass finally illuminated. I turned and found Corwin standing a few feet away. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at me like he didn't know where to start. I'm sorry, he finally said. I didn't realize you weren't invited. His voice was strained, careful, like someone stepping into water they thought was shallow but isn't. I'm starting to notice things, he added. Small things, how she talks about people, the things she hides. I studied him for a second. He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't trying to cover for her. He looked like a man who'd found a crack in the wall and couldn't stop staring through it. It's never about one thing, I said quietly. It's about the pattern people pretend not to see until it turns on them. He gave a slow nod, the kind that carries weight. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to, because this time someone else was finally listening. The next morning, light spilled across my kitchen table, warm and ordinary. But nothing about me felt ordinary anymore. I sat with a mug of coffee I hadn't touched, phone resting face down beside it. I hadn't planned to open Instagram, but an unfamiliar name slid into my DMs. You probably saw this already, but yikes. My chest tightened. I tapped the link. The clip opened with a boomerang, champagne glasses raised, squeals of laughter. Then it cut. Varel stood in the center of the room, a wine glass in hand, looking radiant and smug. Someone off camera asked, "Where's your sister?" Without missing a beat, Varel grinned. Probably reorganizing her bookshelf alphabetically by trauma. Laughter exploded. She added, "Didn't want the energy police showing up. We kept it light on purpose." Someone chimed in, "You're so bad." The camera panned, catching Thalia's face mid-blink, unreadable but not laughing. I watched it again, and again. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. It wasn't just a dig. It was a public joke, at my expense, at a celebration I was erased from. I opened my messages, typed something to Varel, deleted it. Instead, I went to my notes, wrote exactly what I felt, simple, controlled, then copied it and opened a new message, not to my sister, to Thalia. You asked if it was a mistake. I think this clip answers that better than I ever could. I attached the video and hit send. A few minutes passed. Then her reply came. I've seen enough. I'm sorry. Just that. But it was everything. I closed my phone, logged out. I wasn't interested in watching the fallout. But for the first time, I wasn't the only one watching what happened next. The afternoon sun barely warmed my apartment through the blinds when my phone rang. I didn't need to look to know who it was. I let it buzz twice before picking up. Hi, Mom, I said flatly. She didn't greet me. I heard you sent that video to Thalia. Straight to it. No hello. No. Are you okay? I did, I said. A pause. Then the edge sharpened. Why would you do that? Do you have any idea how that makes us look? Us. Not me. Not Varel. Us. It wasn't a secret, I replied. They recorded it at her party, Mom. Maris exhaled sharply. People are starting to talk. Your cousins, the neighbors. Do you really think this is helping? Helping who? I asked. Because it's definitely helping me. I'm serious, Elira. Varel is 7 months pregnant. She's hormonal. Things get set out of turn. No, that's not what happened. You're being dramatic, she snapped. What happened to keeping family matters private? This doesn't need to become a circus. I felt my jaw tense. It's always been private. That's how it kept going. You think this is the circus? No, Mom. The real circus is pretending nothing's wrong while your daughter's being mocked on camera by the one person she used to protect. There was silence. A heavy, calculated silence. Then she softened her tone, her favorite weapon. Honey, please don't embarrass the family. We are family. This isn't how we fix things. I didn't flinch. I spent 30 years fixing things that weren't mine to fix. Elira, you're not upset about what happened. You're upset I didn't stay quiet about it. I could hear her breathing shift, like she'd been slapped without contact. You're overreacting. No, I said, voice steady. I'm just not underreacting anymore. And then, I hung up. The call didn't end with a scream. It ended with a decision. Mine. After the call ended, I sat in the quiet for a moment longer. Not broken, just breathing. Then I stood up, walked to the hallway. There was a drawer I hadn't opened in years. The one labeled keepsakes in Maris's perfect handwriting. I'd found it accidentally a long time ago, stuffed in a box of winter linens she gave me when I moved into this apartment. I never had the heart to throw it away, and never the nerve to really look inside. Until now. I opened the envelope. Dust puffed into the air like something exhaled. Inside were layers of cards and glossy prints. Birthday snapshots, old school events, handwritten letters. Every single one was about Varel. Varel's first communion. To my sunshine girl, love always, Mom. Varel in a tutu, Varel in braces, Varel at prom. Nothing with my name, not even a crooked drawing. My heart didn't break. It hardened. I took out my phone, lined the photos across the floor, snapped shots one by one. No editing, no commentary, just truth. Then I opened my laptop. Subject. Before you believe her version of me, I attached the images. I added one line. This is what it's been like. I'm done pretending it wasn't. Sent to every aunt, cousin, Thalia, Corwin, and yes, Varel. Then I waited. Minutes passed. First reply. Jamie, my cousin. I had no idea, I'm sorry. Then Thalia. This confirms what I sensed. Thank you for trusting us with it. Silence from my mother. Then Corwin. I don't know how you lived with this, Elira. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just exhaled, like I'd been holding my breath for decades. Then, inevitably, Varel's email came. All caps, no punctuation. How dare you drag this outside the family? I didn't answer, but Thalia did. Some things deserve sunlight, and that was it. Not a firestorm, not a takedown, just light, pouring in through a door they never expected me to open. It had been a week since the email, not a single word from Varel, no apology, no retaliation, just silence. Maris sent a vague text 2 days after. Let's talk soon. I read it. Let it sit. Never replied. The family group chat? Still active, but like a room no one wanted to walk into first. People posted generic memes, a recipe, a photo of someone's new dog. No one mentioned me, or the video, or the email. That kind of silence? It's not peace. It's avoidance wrapped in civility. But I didn't need noise anymore. I found myself revisiting the email I sent, just to make sure I didn't regret it. Still didn't. I didn't send it out of revenge. I sent it to stop pretending. I deleted the screenshot folder from my phone, not to erase anything, but because I no longer needed proof to believe my own memory. They didn't lose me because I yelled. They lost me because I finally stopped whispering. A few days later, I signed up for a weekend retreat for women in caregiving fields. Burnout and boundaries, topics I knew too well. I met up with Kara again. We had coffee outside under a string of lights, sharing stories that used to feel too heavy to say out loud. She laughed at one point and said, "You know what? I'm proud of you for not burning the whole house down." I smiled. I thought about it. Then she asked, "How's Corwin?" He messaged, said she started therapy. Kara's brow lifted. I shrugged. That's good. She needs it. You gonna be part of that? No. I stirred my tea. I wish her healing. I just won't sit in the room while it happens. The next morning, I stood by the window watching the city wake up below me. People heading to work, coffee in hand, dogs pulling on leashes. I pressed a palm to the glass, not out of sadness, but to feel something solid. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't closure either. But it was clarity. And sometimes, clarity is enough to finally breathe. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't being left out. It's realizing you've spent years trying to earn space in a story that was never written with you in mind. I used to think staying quiet made me strong. That if I just held it together, I'd be seen. That if I didn't rock the boat, I'd be invited aboard. But the truth is, silence doesn't build bridges. It buries you beneath them. And healing? It doesn't come from getting the apology. It comes from knowing you deserve better, even if it never arrives. So if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've been gaslit into thinking your hurt is drama, or your needs are a burden, please hear me when I say this. You are not too much. You were just too real for people who preferred the version of you that didn't speak up. And if that's the cost of peace, I'd choose my voice every time. Now I want to ask you, have you ever had to walk away from a relationship just to remember who you were? What helped you finally speak up? Or maybe, what's still holding you back? Drop a comment if this story touched you. Or leave a 1 in the comments if you've ever had to choose yourself over family expectations. Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this message is reaching. And hey, if this resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more real, raw, and honest stories that just might sound a little like your own.
Every time she gets a chance, my daughter-in-law, Jasmine, treats me like a poor old woman living off a pension. I came all this way to visit, and this is what I get. Such a shabby place, so disappointing. Well, I guess this is what you get on a pension. I can take whatever is said about me, but I can't stand it when someone insults this shop. My name is Susan. At 65, I'm still quite active for my age. My husband, John, passed away 3 years ago at the age of 70. He fought hard against liver disease, but sadly couldn't beat it. John was a craftsman and fought bravely without much complaint until the end. He was 8 years older than me, and I had always been prepared for the possibility that he might pass away before me. However, his death came sooner than I expected. For a while, I was like a shell of my former self, but thanks to friends and neighbors, I gradually regained my spirit. Now I'm enjoying my time alone, attending career classes, a hobby of mine from way back, and going to the theater with friends. Another significant event happened after John passed and things settled down. My eldest son, Louis, got married. I thought it would be something to cheer me up. John and I had 2 children. Our eldest, Louis, is now 37 years old and works as an IT engineer. He's freelancing now, mainly working from home, and apparently he's earning more than he did as a salaried employee. Teresa, our daughter and Louis' sister, is currently on an overseas assignment. She hardly ever gets to come back home. Louis finally married in his mid-30s, but for Teresa, it seems her job comes first, and marriage seems far off for her. Speaking of putting the job first, that's Louis's wife, Jasmine. Jasmine is 9 years younger than Louis, currently 28 years old, an even larger gap than between John and me. I first met Jasmine 2 years ago when Louis said, "I decided to marry this person," and brought Jasmine to our house. Louis was attracted to the hardworking Jasmine, and surprisingly, it was Jasmine who strongly desired to marry. She was a slender beauty in a well-tailored suit from a high-end brand, the epitome of a career woman, just like those seen in TV dramas. She exuded an aura of competence, and her views expressed during our family meetings were quite modern. We want to be a couple who respect each other's independence and freedom. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'll give up on advancing my career. I'll work hard. I think we probably won't have children, she said. According to Jasmine, raising children is a hindrance to career advancement. She wants to earn her own money and enjoy freedom without being tied down by family life even after marriage. However, I was somewhat taken aback by what Jasmine said next. Living on a pension really seems like living in poverty, doesn't it? Money is really important. I have to work hard and earn. Living in poverty? I don't know what kind of lavish lifestyle the career woman Jasmine dreams of, but it's none of her business. I'm quite satisfied with my current life, which suits my means. Even the usually calm Louis had to gently chide her, "Hey, Jasmine, don't say things like that." It was a worrying first encounter with Jasmine. The first Christmas after Louis and Jasmine got married, they came to visit my house. Maybe because of her busy job, as soon as Jasmine arrived. "Oh, I'm so tired," Jasmine said as she sat on the sofa and didn't move. Even on Christmas, she seemed preoccupied with work, constantly staring at her mobile phone and tablet, never leaving the sofa. "Louis, I want some coffee." "Louis, I'm a bit hungry. Bring me some snacks," she ordered from the sofa. Louis dutifully brought her coffee and snacks. It's good that she's dedicated to her work, but as a mother, it pains me to see my son so casually used by Jasmine. Moreover, during their stay, Jasmine never once helped in the kitchen. It was always Louis who helped with meal preparations and washing up. Quietly, I asked Louis, who was helping me with the dishes, "Hey, Louis, doesn't Jasmine do any housework?" "Well, I'm mostly working from home as a freelancer, so I usually handle the housework. Jasmine has a commute and often comes home late. Plus, she travels a lot for work, so she's not home much. There's not much to do in terms of housework anyway. It's different from our time. Besides, Jasmine's been given more responsible work lately, so she's busy. You know, we're an independent couple. Jasmine likes to manage her own stuff, though I mostly take care of the house." "Well, if you're okay with it, I won't interfere." Jasmine can be a bit harsh in her way of speaking, but think of it as her fighting through the tough world of work. "Please be a bit more understanding, Mom," Louis said, always mild-mannered. Since then, only Louis has come home for summer vacations and Christmas. Jasmine's too busy with work to come, he always says. Jasmine has a lot of business trips and often works on weekends. Recently, she's hardly ever at home. For me, having some reservations about Jasmine, it's admittedly easier when Louis comes alone. Every time Louis came back home, I noticed he seemed a bit more worn, which concerned me. Then as summer reached its peak, I received a call from Louis. "Hello. This summer break, Jasmine and I will come to visit for the first time in a while." "Is that so? It's been a long time since both of you visited together." "Yeah, looking forward to it, Mom." I felt relieved hearing Louis's cheerful voice. When the summer break came, Louis and Jasmine returned home. This year's summer was reportedly the hottest on record. Our air conditioner at home was running nonstop, but due to its age, it wasn't cooling very well. "Well, I'm home," Louis said. "Hello there," Jasmine exclaimed as soon as she entered our house. "It's so hot, Susan. Is the air conditioner even working?" "Hey, Louis, lower the temperature." She went straight to the sofa and, as usual, began giving Louis casual orders. "It's still hot. Is this air conditioner broken? But I guess you can't afford a new one on a pension." "Louis, a hand fan, please." I had a bad feeling that Jasmine seemed even more overbearing than before. Also, compared to when I first met her, her makeup and clothing seemed flashier. "I'm going to say hello to Dad," Louis said as he went to greet John's photograph. When I returned with coffee for the two of them, I found Louis in front of the photo, but Jasmine was not there. She was still confidently sitting on the sofa. legs crossed, fiddling with her mobile phone. She drank the cold coffee I made without even a word of thanks. I didn't want to nag Jasmine, but even I couldn't hold back this time. "Can't you put the phone away just for now?" I asked. Jasmine replied, "I have important work responsibilities, Susan. Living on a pension, you wouldn't understand. What does living on a pension have to do with this?" I wanted to say something back to Jasmine, but she spoke up again. "The reason Susan can live on a pension is because of the money we work hard to earn. So as someone who works hard every day, I don't have to move in front of people living on pensions." Really? Such excuses? Is this what being weathered by the rough seas of society does to a person? I felt bad for Louis, but I didn't want Jasmine to come over anymore. Knowing she wouldn't help in the kitchen, I made a dinner reservation at a restaurant that holds special memories for our family. It's not the most elegant establishment, but the food is exquisite. When it was time, Louis, Jasmine, and I headed to the restaurant. Upon arrival, we were guided to a private room that had been prepared for us. "Ah, I'm going to say hello to Chef Brown. It's been a while since we've been here," Louis said before entering the private room, leaving me alone with Jasmine. Just the two of us. I felt uncomfortable and uneasy. Jasmine, as usual, was busy with her mobile phone, just as I thought I should start a conversation. Jasmine spoke first. "I came all this way to visit, and this is the place. Kind of disappointing." "Oh, why? The food hasn't even been served yet. This restaurant is really delicious, you know." I tried to explain our family's connection to the restaurant, but Jasmine interrupted me. "I work in the city, you know, and the places I usually go to for private dining or entertaining guests are those trendy ones featured in magazines. I doubt there are any stylish places like that in the countryside. This place is so impoverished." "Well, I guess that's what you get when you're living on a pension, Susan." "Jasmine, how can you say such things? Please don't speak ill of this restaurant," I replied. I didn't mind her belittling me for living on a pension, but Jasmine was now insulting our family's cherished restaurant. Various thoughts I had been holding back swirled in my heart. Today, I had had enough. It was time to stand up to Jasmine. As my anger reached its peak, I took a deep breath, ready to respond. "When we get home, Jasmine," a voice interrupted. It wasn't mine. It was Louis. After greeting Chef Brown, Louis had returned and stood at the entrance of the private room. His eyes had a coldness as his parent had never seen before. "I will absolutely not tolerate anyone speaking ill of this restaurant," his eyes said. "Jasmine, this restaurant you see was started by my dad and mom." Jasmine must have never seen Louis so angry before. She couldn't continue her usual haughty behavior. "My father was a chef. He and my mom started this restaurant together and put their hearts into it. It's a precious place for us, filled with cherished memories. And you call it impoverished." Indeed, this restaurant was started by John and me, just as Louis said. John was a skilled chef, and his cooking attracted locals who kept the restaurant always full. It wasn't a place with constant lines, but people from afar would come having heard about it. When the restaurant became busier, Chef Brown, now in charge of the kitchen, was John's right-hand man. "Well, I didn't know that." "You don't need to be so angry, Louis," Jasmine retorted, her face strained. "Whether you knew it or not, there are things that are okay to say and things that are not." Louis's anger hadn't subsided yet. Today's Louis was different from usual. As I watched a bewildered Jasmine, I remembered the days when Louis was still in elementary school. He used to stop by the restaurant after school and often helped us out. He washed dishes with his small hands and cut vegetables next to John. Even after marrying Jasmine, it was always Louis who helped me out. This was my chance. I decided to fight back. "Jasmine, you know I'm still the owner of this restaurant. I had planned to hand it over entirely to Chef Brown after John passed away, but Chef Brown, who was greatly indebted to John, insisted on looking after the restaurant until I turned 70. I still help out at the restaurant sometimes, and it provides enough income for me to live on my own. So I've arranged to start receiving my pension at 70. You keep belittling me for living on a pension, but guess what? I'm not even on a pension yet. Sorry to disappoint. Maybe I should add one more thing, Jasmine. Don't know what kind of lavish lifestyle you dream of with all your hard work, but I'm perfectly content with my life as it is, suited to my means. Thought you were living on a pension, Jasmine said, her tone uncertain. As you can see, I'll start receiving my pension when I turn 70. I still have money left by John that I haven't touched. I have no reason to be belittled by someone like you. Yes. I'm sorry, Jasmine stammered, looking down, diminished. Perhaps she hadn't expected such a retort from the always gentle Louis and me. Maybe John lent us his strength from beyond. Mom's right, Louis murmured softly. I looked at Louis, who was rummaging through his bag. He took out a bundle of envelopes and postcards and placed them in front of Jasmine. What is this? Jasmine asked as she took the bundle and checked its contents. Her face turned pale. No matter how hard you work outside, if you shop without restraint, you can't keep up with the payments, right? Wait, what? I didn't know these had arrived. I don't know anything about this, Jasmine protested. You're never home because of overtime and business trips. No time to check the mailbox. Louis replied, What's this all about? I asked, eyeing the bundle of mail Jasmine was holding. To my surprise, it was a stack of dunning letters from credit card companies. And another thing, Louis continued, half of these reminders are for purchases at men's stores. I've never known you to shop there, and I doubt you're wearing men's clothing. What's going on? No, that's not it, Jasmine protested. Louis, don't say such awful things. I can explain. I decided not to hold back any longer. Jasmine, explain this. I demanded firmly. It was for a present. I bought it for someone I owe a lot to at work. I was in a hurry, so I used my card. Jasmine stammered, her face reddening and her makeup starting to melt. For someone you owe a lot to, Louis repeated, pulling out another, larger envelope from his bag and thrusting it at Jasmine. What now? Jasmine hesitantly opened the envelope, her face turning pale. Inside were photos of her walking arm in arm with a flashy young man, entering an apartment building with him. The most damning evidence was left unspoken. What is this? You investigated me? Jasmine exclaimed, her voice sharp. With all those dunning letters, I had to look into it, Louis replied, resigned yet composed. What's wrong with taking a little break? I'm stressed from work, Louis. You're older and too calm. You don't provide any excitement. To me, you're just a house husband. I need some excitement outside or I can't stand it. Jasmine blurted out, now red-faced. Stop it right now, I shouted, my anger finally exploding. Jasmine, listen to me. How dare you treat Louis like a housewife when you're not supporting him? You said you wanted to be a self-reliant and free couple. How is overspending and infidelity being self-reliant and free? I don't want to see your face anymore. Get out of this restaurant right now. Susan, you don't need to get so angry. Louis interjected. Quiet, just get out. I insisted. Startled by the fury Louis and I had shown, Jasmine fled the restaurant. Chef Brown, who had been observing the scene, approached us. Is everything settled? Chef Brown asked. I'm sorry for causing a scene, Louis said. It seems I had to confront Jasmine. I explained the situation to you earlier. It's okay, Louis. Susan, the food is ready, so I'll bring it over. Just the family now. Please take your time, Chef Brown reassured us. Thank you. We appreciated his understanding. Louis and I regained our composure and enjoyed the meal, reminiscing about past times. Chef Brown had faithfully continued John's flavors, bringing back fond memories. Afterwards, Louis stayed at my house while proceeding with the divorce. He left everything to a lawyer and moved his belongings out while Jasmine was at work. According to acquaintances, Jasmine continued to spend lavishly on men even after the divorce. Her mailbox remained full of dunning letters, and her workplace started receiving calls about her overdue payments. Eventually, her workplace found out about the affair and divorce, leading to daily criticism at her job. Despite the discomfort, she couldn't afford to quit as she had to pay damages to Louis. Short on funds, she was swiftly abandoned by her boyfriend, left only with debts and broken pride. With Jasmine gone, peace returned to my life. Louis's sister, Teresa, was returning home temporarily from her overseas assignment. Louis planned to coincide his return with her visit. I'm home. It's been a while. Teresa greeted us. I'm so tired from the long journey. We looked at her in surprise. What's up with you, Mom and Big Brother? Oh, right, I need to greet Dad first, she said, heading towards John's photo. That evening, for the first time in a while, Louis, Teresa, and I gathered around the dinner table and had a wonderful time. Despite her fatigue, Teresa helped with cleaning up. You seem to be doing well. I accidentally voiced my inner thoughts aloud. Teresa gave me a puzzled look. What are you talking about? When I looked back, Louis had a slightly embarrassed smile on his face. I realized I might never see my grandchildren, but I felt fortunate to have such kind children. I knew John in heaven was at peace, and until the day I joined him, I vowed to live a life that suited me and enjoy my solitude. That was the promise I made to myself. It's all your fault. This happened because you haven't been supporting my son as his wife, my mother-in-law said, deeply upset as she saw her son lying motionless on the hospital bed. Her words shocked me, and I felt a strong sense of guilt. My husband, Ethan, had recently started working as a freelancer, but his business wasn't doing well. Then he had a traffic accident and fell into a coma. As time went on without him waking up, a doctor called me into a separate room. He looked worried, as if he had something serious to say. I feared the worst about Ethan's condition. The doctor handed me a phone number and whispered, "Please call this number immediately." Then he told me something even more shocking in a desperate voice. He trembled uncontrollably and rushed out of the room. My name is Emily. I'm 42 years old, and I work as a freelance interior designer. I've been married to Ethan, who is the same age as me, for 2 years. He works for a housing manufacturer, and we met through a project we worked on together. When we first met, he seemed serious and a bit shy, but he actively engaged in conversation, which helped us grow close. We used to go out for meals with colleagues, and one day he asked me, "Will you date me?" From that day, our relationship changed. We got married after a long period of dating. People often thought we had been married for a long time due to our age, so they were surprised to learn we were only in our second year of marriage. With marriage, the topic of children came up. We'd occasionally get asked if we have children, but neither Ethan nor I have the time due to our busy jobs. As a freelancer, I don't have set days off, and while Ethan generally has weekends off, we haven't been able to go out together recently. Just seeing each other at dinner and talking about our day makes me happy. We're both content without having children. However, my mother-in-law seemed displeased. My in-laws run a privately owned clinic that has been passed down through generations. Ethan didn't become a doctor, and perhaps she wants us to have children to be successors. Although she never said it directly, I sensed it. Regardless of whether we have children or not, my mother-in-law disliked me from the start. She spoils Ethan a lot, and while it's normal to show affection, it seemed to go beyond the usual parent-child relationship. She treated me like a thief who deceived her precious son. My mother-in-law directs such hostility toward me. She glared at me even during the marriage proposal and wouldn't respond properly when I tried to talk to her. Every time we meet, the atmosphere becomes tense, so despite living nearby, we stopped visiting them. My parents significantly influenced my decision to become an interior designer. They were originally in the construction industry, and I admired them, which led me to pursue something related to home building. After graduating from university, I worked for an interior design company, but I became a freelancer around the age of 30 and have been one ever since. The project that brought Ethan and me together was one I worked on shortly after becoming a freelancer. We got married at the age of 40, and at the same time, he quit his job at the housing manufacturer where he had been working. He then started his own business as an interior coordinator. However, Ethan's business wasn't going well. Not receiving any work offers, Ethan started to spend a lot of time at home, not really doing anything. Even when I suggested he might need to do something to get work, he didn't listen. Our income drastically decreased from his days as an employee, and it felt like I was the one supporting us. Look, there must be something you can do to promote yourself. How about studying and trying different things? I suggested. Shut up. What do you even know? You're probably secretly mocking me, aren't you? Ethan began to hurl abusive words at me. His eyes showed clear hostility, and I could sense jealousy and inferiority. I didn't achieve success as a freelancer without considerable effort, but no matter how much I explained it to him, he wouldn't understand. He constantly said patriarchal things like, "You're not being considerate. Can't you support your husband's image?" Whenever I tried to retort, he would immediately cut me off with, "What are you trying to talk back? You're really annoying and boring." Apparently, he had been complaining to his parents too, and they would often call me, saying, "It's despicable to hurt Ethan like this," even though it was me who was getting hurt. I just stayed silent and waited for the storm to pass, knowing he'd return to his room once he was satisfied. Then Ethan got into a car accident and ended up in a vegetative state. His mother became extremely agitated, blaming me, saying, "It's your fault. This all happened because you haven't supported him as his wife." Even though I knew her accusation was unfounded, her words pierced deep into my heart. I recognized the familiar look in her eyes, the same as Ethan's when he would glare at me. Despite visiting him every day, his condition remained unchanged. "Doctor, will my son always remain like this? When will he wake up?" she would ask, pressing the doctor for answers only to be disappointed with their response. Out of frustration, she eventually decided to take him back to their home. "We'll take care of Ethan ourselves. You only have to put in the money and handle the household chores too." Since Ethan's accident, his mother has constantly blamed me, saying it's all my fault. Gradually, her accusations and the tension between us have only grown worse. I started blaming myself more for not being there for him, so just as his family wanted, I decided to devote myself to Ethan and his family. For the next year, I lived a life shuttling between our home and his family's home, focusing on work and household chores. During that time, Ethan never once opened his eyes. Maybe it's because of me that he won't wake up. Feeling deeply discouraged, I would often mutter that while staring at his face during visits to his family's home. Then one day, Ethan's father collapsed and had to be hospitalized. Fortunately, he was expected to be discharged after a few days. "Oh, thank goodness," his mother said, visibly relieved. However, without his father, the clinic couldn't function. So while he recuperated, a doctor from a neighboring hospital was dispatched to handle consultations. That doctor came to visit Ethan for a checkup. As his wife, I stood by trying not to intrude, observing from a corner of the room. The doctor wore a consistently serious expression, perhaps indicating a less than ideal prognosis. Unconsciously, I clasped my hands together, silently praying, my palms damp with sweat. When the examination finally ended, the doctor looked me straight in the eye and called me into another room. I wondered if there was something he couldn't say in front of Ethan's mother. I stiffened, thinking his condition had worsened, but the whispered words in my ear were not what I had expected. "Please contact this number right now," the doctor said, pressing a note into my hand. Frowning, I asked what he meant. The doctor then, in a tense voice, conveyed something even more astonishing. Upon hearing it, my body involuntarily trembled. Goosebumps rose all over, and despite the room not being particularly cold, a shiver ran up my spine. With that, I dashed out of my in-laws' house. A few hours later, my mother-in-law called again. She must have realized I was not there. There had been several missed calls before that I had ignored. Truth be told, I didn't want to talk, but every time I decided to ignore the calls, they'd come again seconds later. The relentless sound filled the room, feeling like I was losing my mind. Reluctantly, I answered, feeling somewhat prepared. I took a deep breath. "Emily, where on earth have you gone? The housework isn't even done." My mother-in-law's shrill voice came through the speaker of my phone. The piercing tone was so loud that I immediately pulled the phone away from my ear, unpleasantly reverberating in my head. "Come back immediately. This is unacceptable." "No, I won't come back. Not today. Not ever. And I won't be contributing any money either." "Huh? What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath and said firmly, almost as a final blow, "I'm divorcing Ethan." How long had it been? I wondered. She fell silent. It was only a matter of seconds, but it felt unnaturally long. Perhaps my uncharacteristic assertiveness was hard for her to believe. It seemed she finally grasped the meaning of my words after slowly digesting them. "Leaving my child in a state like that? Do you have no heart? What kind of cruel wife are you?" Nothing she said could hurt me anymore because questioning my heart was now my prerogative. "I've already uncovered all the lies. You're not fooling anybody here, Mother. Ethan isn't really in a vegetative state, is he?" The person beside me on the call said calmly. My mother-in-law sounded taken aback, a sharp intake of breath audible. It was Ethan's elder brother who made that observation. "Why are you with Emily?" Her voice remained shrill, but the emotions behind it seemed to shift from anger to a mix of surprise and panic. Ignoring her question, Ethan's brother sighed exasperatedly before starting to explain. As it turned out, the doctor sent to Ethan's family was a colleague of Ethan's brother. Ethan was initially taken to the hospital where his brother worked. His brother, upon hearing the news, found it suspicious from the start. The idea that Ethan had fallen into a vegetative state, given the circumstances of the accident, felt off. However, since Ethan's brother wasn't his attending physician and had been estranged from the family, he didn't feel comfortable questioning them directly. Consequently, he couldn't get a clear picture of the situation. It became apparent that my mother-in-law had taken Ethan home from the hospital to prevent the truth from coming out. However, after my father-in-law's recent collapse, other doctors became involved at the family's home, leading to the exposure of the lies. Ethan was not in a vegetative state. A doctor, a colleague of Ethan's brother, handed me a note while revealing this. The note contained my brother-in-law's contact information and another phone number for a certain location. After fleeing my in-law's house, I immediately called my brother-in-law and met up with him. When I learned the shocking truth, various emotions swirled inside me. Surprise was followed by fear, anger, and disgust. During the explanation, my mother-in-law tried to interject several times, but fell silent, as everything he said was accurate. Adding insult to injury, my brother-in-law said, "The reason you were having Emily put money in is because your hospital is struggling financially. isn't it? By your hospital. He meant the clinic my in-laws were running. A gulp was heard at those words, likely from my mother-in-law, though it seemed to come from somewhere behind her. Ethan, I know you're listening over there, he said. We didn't miss the faint voice that slipped out. Just like I was on the phone with my brother-in-law, Ethan seemed to be watching my mother-in-law's reaction on his end. It was indeed a lie that he was in a vegetative state. Along with disappointment, there was a sensation as if the remaining affection for him inside me was swiftly disappearing. With my mother-in-law now silent and Ethan muttering, "Herm, I can explain," repeatedly to evade telling the truth, I hung up the phone. Several days later, I visited my in-laws' house with some people, despite declaring over the phone that I wouldn't come back. I sighed at finding myself there again, but it couldn't be helped. There were things that needed to be done. Besides, I wasn't alone, so I could confidently step into the house. I reflected on what my brother-in-law's colleague had whispered to me a few days ago. The contact information I was given included not only my brother-in-law's, but also the police's. Before taking my mother-in-law's call, I had immediately filed a police report. At the front door, I saw familiar sandals and sneakers likely belonging to my in-laws, but among them was a distinctly different pair of women's heels. Of course, they weren't mine. After a glance, I took off my shoes and headed straight to Ethan's room, or rather, where he was supposed to be sleeping. Well, pretending to be asleep would be more accurate. There my mother-in-law, freshly discharged father-in-law, and a young woman who appeared to be a nurse were surrounding Ethan's bed. My mother-in-law and that woman were each holding one of Ethan's hands. I knew the truth. That woman was actually Ethan's affair partner, Sarah, a 29-year-old a decade younger than us. The investigation was complete. She must have been meeting Ethan when I wasn't around in my in-laws' home. I guessed my in-laws were in on it too. I felt like laughing at the sight of Ethan breathing regularly in his sleep, but held back. It didn't matter anymore since the lie had been exposed when I made that call. He should be fully conscious and able to hear and understand what's being said. I took out the divorce papers and held them out for everyone to see. "Ethan, let's get divorced," I said. At that moment, his eyes snapped open. He must have been listening all along. He quickly sat up, abruptly crawling out of bed and clinging to my feet. "No, I don't want to break up," he pleaded. I couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh as I watched him beg. It was almost amusing to see his affair partner watching with despair on her face. From Sarah's devastated expression, it was clear Ethan had been whispering sweet nothings to her, telling her she was the most important person in his life. It was incredibly selfish for him to now claim he didn't want a divorce after all that had happened. "How irresponsible of you," I said. "Exactly fulfill your duties as a wife. Don't be cheeky," my in-laws yelled, trying to intimidate me into obedience. But their efforts were futile. I had no intention of dealing with them ever again. "Enough fooling around," my brother-in-law rebuked them in a low voice. He had been silent until then, but it seemed he couldn't bear it any longer. "Do you think there's a woman out there who would be a wife to someone who pretends to be in a vegetative state to cheat and scam money? If you want a wife so badly, why not have that woman instead, since she's come here so boldly? Both mother and father must be so happy, right?" I fired off questions one after another, but no one could answer. They just bit their lips and looked around, visibly troubled. They wouldn't be able to do as they pleased anymore. Talking about a new wife, life, or the future was pointless. "Give up already," I said. "This house is surrounded by the police." When my brother-in-law quietly informed them of this, everyone looked up at once, turning pale with despair. The sound of teeth chattering echoed in the room as they realized the full extent of their actions and the consequences they would face. I had solid evidence of the financial exploitation by my in-laws and the verbal abuse I had endured, which I submitted to the police along with my report. Ethan's mother and the others hurled verbal abuse at me, claiming it was all my fault and a scam to get money. From the time Ethan's income as an interior coordinator dried up and he started working on a freelance basis, he had been planning this with his parents. He had some intense insecurities towards me, thinking that if I could live as a freelancer, so could he. But it didn't work out for him at all. Frustrated with me, he probably maintained his pride by cheating with someone younger to feel superior. Don't think I don't know father also committed tax evasion, Ethan's brother said, giving their father a cold look despite his desperate denial. It's something that'll come out once investigated. When we gave the signal, the police officers waiting outside entered the room. After that, Ethan and I divorced smoothly. I didn't want to talk to him directly anymore, so I had lawyers handle all communication. Please, can we have just one more chance to talk face to face? Ethan pleaded and begged, but I firmly refused. Don't contact me anymore. I've left everything to the lawyers. With that, I deleted all of his contact information and made sure to block him from contacting me. The investigation into Ethan's father's hospital revealed massive tax evasion. Unable to pay the fine, the hospital closed down. Rumors spread among the neighbors. Hey, you know that hospital over there? Turns out they were evading taxes. Can you believe it? The director seemed like such an upright person, but who could have thought their true nature was like that? With no money to move out, Ethan and my father-in-law ended up living with my mother-in-law, hiding from the public eye. But I made sure to get back every penny they scammed from me. I ruthlessly took compensation and all the money I had given to my in-laws. I also made sure to get compensation from Sarah, the woman Ethan had cheated with. I don't know what happened to her afterward, but I heard she's working hard to repay the money she borrowed from her parents. Ethan and his parents ended up drowning in a mountain of debt. Since Ethan's parents were too old to find new jobs, Ethan seemed to be working hard to support both of them while struggling to make ends meet. He worked multiple part-time jobs, giving up on being an interior coordinator. On the other hand, I decided to return to my parents' home. Despite knowing the situation, my parents warmly welcomed me without prying, and their kindness deeply touched me. I decided to help out with my parents' business at home while continuing my career as an interior designer. The bride, who graduated from a prestigious music college and looked down on me, a mere high school graduate, insisted I play the piano at my brother's wedding. I had never told her I could play, so she was definitely trying to mess with me. Then she leaned in close and whispered something shocking in my ear. To be honest, I have a real boyfriend besides Jack. She smiled as I trembled in front of the piano, but I knew that smile wouldn't last long. My name is Elena Johnson. I'm 32, unmarried, and work as a staff member at a wedding hall. My family consists of just my brother and me. Our parents divorced when I was in high school, and a few years later, our mother passed away in an accident. We lost contact with our father, who never supported us, forcing us to fend for ourselves. I didn't go to college. Instead, I went straight to work to support my brother and me. Jack, my younger brother by 3 years, is sharp and intelligent. He earned a full scholarship and completed his university studies, landing a job at a well-known company. I was proud of him, especially as he was about to get married. According to Jack, his bride was the daughter of a company executive, beautiful, pleasant, and family-oriented. She had graduated from a prestigious music institution and already gave private piano lessons, seemingly perfect. One holiday, our families met for the first time. The bride, Grace Miller, was even more attractive and pleasant in person than in her photos. She approached me for advice. I heard you work at a wedding hall. Could we have our wedding there? Of course, we'd be delighted to help, I replied, happy to support my brother's big day. Her parents, smiling and proud, shared stories about Grace's accomplishments, highlighting her many piano awards and competitions. But when her father mentioned a certain girl who often bested her in competitions, Grace's demeanor changed. My daughter always did well, but there was always this one girl who took first place. Very frustrating. What was her name again? Let's not talk about that. Grace cut him off, quickly changing the subject. An hour later, I stepped out to take a work call and saw Grace returning from the restroom. I thanked her for the lovely day. I appreciate everything you did for us today. It was fantastic. But Grace's demeanor shifted. Attending today's meeting is a high school graduate. Grace hurriedly returned to the room, leaving me behind. I stood there, unable to respond to her abrupt transformation. I couldn't understand what was going on. After finishing my work call, I returned to my seat, still puzzled. Strangely, Grace had reverted to her pleasant self. Elena, would you like something to drink? She asked kindly, handing me the drink list. I must have misheard her, I thought. Not wanting to complicate matters, I kept the incident to myself, and the meeting soon came to a close. However, it quickly became clear that it was not a misunderstanding at all. When Grace and I started meeting alone to plan the wedding ceremony, she constantly looked down on me. You don't resemble Jack, who is very attractive, she would say every time we met, implying I was unattractive. Grace was sarcastic, often mocking my high school education and unmarried status. If you have time to assist others in getting married, why don't you worry about yourself? She sneered. Oh, but you're only a high school graduate, so you're not very bright. And you lack manners because you were raised by a single mother. I don't think you'll be able to find a partner. She often boasted about her piano skills. I'm the one who always won the top prize in piano competitions. I'm not like you, who only finished high school and went straight to work. Grace's constant jabs wore me down. Although she was supposed to be my brother's wife, I couldn't bring myself to like her. But Jack had chosen her, and their relationship seemed to be going well. I decided to keep Grace's true nature a secret from my brother, believing I was the only one who had to endure her cruelty. Months passed, and it was finally the day of the wedding. As the daughter of an executive, Grace had many company employees in attendance. We had made special arrangements for them, treating them as VIPs due to their high number. Though I could have taken the day off as the groom's sister, I wanted to be part of my brother's special day, even if only from behind the scenes. Consequently, I was permitted to work as a staff member until just before the ceremony began. With only a few minutes left before the ceremony, 2 of Grace's female friends entered the dressing room while I was touching up my makeup. I wanted to say hello, but I needed to finish quickly. Besides, they were engrossed in a lively conversation, so I continued working on my hair and makeup without interrupting them. Suddenly, their conversation took an unexpected turn. Hey, you know Grace is dating another guy, right? One said. I've heard he's a guy from the nightclub. She said she was getting married today just to keep up appearances. The other replied, if that's true, I feel sorry for the groom who has no idea. My mind went blank, and I panicked to stop this marriage immediately, but I couldn't cancel the ceremony without proof. The wedding ceremony began, leaving me feeling bewildered. Guests provided entertainment as the ceremony neared its midpoint. Grace's friends, all music college graduates, played beautiful pieces on their instruments. Suddenly, Grace picked up the microphone and announced, now my sister-in-law will make a presentation on the piano. All eyes in the hall were suddenly on me. I panicked, as Grace had never mentioned this. I had never told her I could play the piano, so this unexpected announcement caught me off guard. This wasn't part of the plan. Grace was supposed to play the piano in the second half of the wedding, so it wasn't even ready yet. Hearing Grace's words, the ceremony hall personnel began frantically arranging the piano while I stood there, too surprised to move. Grace approached me at the family table and yanked my arm with all her strength. "Come this way," she demanded, dragging me toward the piano. "Hey, you didn't tell me anything about this," I whispered to her, trying to keep calm as the other guests watched. Grace leaned in, her voice a harsh whisper. "When I look at you, I can't help but get angry. All I want to do is annoy you. Is that the only reason you're treating me like this?" I asked. "Yeah, that's right," she replied, her smile vindictive. I realized in just how much I despised her. "The ceremony will be ruined if you refuse to perform here. What do you think will happen if I cry in front of my father? The marriage will be annulled, and Jack will be fired from his job. Do you really want your beloved brother to get fired? How can I really want to marry such a boring man? To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying." Grace's confession confirmed what the girls in the bathroom had said. While I was processing this, the piano was finally set up. "Let's see what you got," Grace taunted. As she instructed, I sat down on the piano bench. My body started shivering, and I could feel my breath coming in heavy gasps. Maybe it's too much to ask of someone who only graduated high school. "Perhaps you've never even touched a piano," Grace said, her triumphant smile widening. The audience was growing increasingly noisy. A staff member, noticing my distress, approached me. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked gently. Grace, meanwhile, had a contented smile at the corner of her mouth. "Play the piano if you're Jack's sister, but it seems I was mistaken." "I'm sorry," she mocked. However, a single phrase from my brother changed everything. "Don't you know my sister?" "What?" Grace stammered. I broke the silence by starting to play the piano. I played Dream of Love, a standard song at weddings. The previously noisy venue quieted down as the sound of the piano filled the air. When I finished, I was met with thunderous applause. My colleagues, who hadn't known I could play the piano so well, were moved to tears. In contrast, Grace's face turned bright red, and she bit her lips in frustration. "You were nervous and trembling earlier. How could you play so well?" she demanded. "I didn't tell you, but I studied at a music college overseas," I replied. Grace appeared astonished, staggering backward when I announced the university's name. By the way, I wasn't trembling because I was nervous, I added, smiling. I was quivering with excitement because I was so delighted to be playing the piano for the first time in a long while. Grace, taken aback, exclaimed, "That's the college I wanted to go to but couldn't. How could a person like you from a single mother family attend?" "I have been taking piano lessons since I was a little girl, and I happen to have a few people around me who supported me," I explained. "However, when my mother died, I had to drop out of music school to come home and help my brother attend school." The reason I had never told Grace that I could play the piano was to avoid overshadowing her. It seems my brother hadn't mentioned my piano experience to her either. Grace, determined to outdo me, refused to acknowledge my past. One of Grace's friends noticed my face and suddenly recognized me. "Is she by chance Elena Garcia?" she asked. "Oh, if that's the case, she's so incredible that we can't even begin to compete." This friend had attended my music college and remembered me well. When it comes to Miss Garcia from the United States, she was known for being a brilliant pianist. Grace, hearing the last name Garcia, turned to me with a bewildered expression. "Are you by any chance the Elena Garcia who won all the awards in the competitions?" "I don't know if I won all the awards, but it's true that I won many of them." "Yes, that's right. I was the girl who always stood in front of you at every competition," I replied. Elena Garcia was my name before my parents divorced. While Grace stood stunned, the MC approached me for a comment. It was a wonderful performance. Would you like to say something to the microphone? Seizing my chance to expose Grace, I took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. Please listen, everyone. Grace is having an affair. Everyone gasped at my sudden revelation. Grace's parents were speechless, their mouths agape. No, that's not true. She's just talking nonsense. Grace tried desperately to deny it, but I quickly connected my phone to the speaker and played a recording. To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying. Grace's voice echoed through the hall. Knowing Grace's true nature, I had my mobile phone voice recorder ready to capture her confession. Grace's face turned pale as her deceit was revealed. You disgraceful brat. Grace's father yelled at her in public, and all hell broke loose. I'm sorry, Papa. I'm sorry, Grace pleaded. I'll never forgive you. You are no longer my daughter, her father declared. Then, as if pushing her away, Jack also accused Grace. How dare you deceive me? I'm not marrying you, my brother declared. Please reconsider, Grace begged, but my brother was furious. Apologize to my sister too, he demanded, pushing her away. Grace looked desperate, not knowing what to do. Please forgive me. Everyone, please forgive me too, she pleaded, still thinking only of herself. There was no apology to me. You've been insulting me for so long, and now you expect me to forgive you. You take far too many things for granted, I said coldly. How will I ever be able to live on my own if Papa and Jack abandon me? Grace cried. She confessed that the man she was having an affair with was a spendthrift and that she couldn't live on his money alone. I don't care about your life anyway. I'm not going to forgive you, I responded firmly. Grace, finally in a tight spot, bowed her head to me. I apologize for everything I've done. I'm sorry, she said, tears spilling from her eyes. Her makeup had smeared and her eyes were dark. It was a pitiful sight, but remembering all she had done to me, I could not forgive her. I feel nothing for you. You insulted me for graduating from high school and trampled on my darling little brother's heart. Never show your face in front of us again, I stated. Grace broke down in tears on the spot and was taken out of the ceremony hall by her relatives. Her parents then apologized to the attendees, and the wedding was abruptly canceled. After the attendees left, my brother and I had a discussion. I'm really sorry if I made you feel bad because I fell for that woman, he said. I'll be fine. Are you going to be okay? I asked, concerned. I need to sort out my feelings right now, but I'll get back on my feet soon, he assured me. I believed his words and decided to slowly watch over my brother. Later, he and Grace officially broke off their engagement. Jack received compensation, and Grace's parents cut her off, kicking her out of the house. Grace had managed her piano lessons with the support of her parents, but that was no longer possible. She began working part-time, but her lack of skills made it difficult for her to make ends meet. The man she was dating also dumped her as soon as he realized there was no more money. Jack, on the other hand, devoted himself to his work and was soon promoted. He was very happy that his efforts had paid off. As for me, I have been asked to play the piano more and more often at wedding ceremonies, and my days are now busy. I hope to bring excitement to many people with my piano performances. Today, my little brother Spy and Kay came over to meet us for the first time. Our relatives gathered, and we were all eagerly anticipating this new addition to the family. However, the visit took an unexpected turn. But you're just a burden in this society. Having your little brother support you, she bluntly criticized me to my face. Though I had always wished for my brother's happiness, hearing such harsh words from his Spy and Kay hit me hard. Yet her comment also illuminated the deep-seated feelings my brother had been harboring. My name is Sylvia Gibson, and my little brother Tristan and I share a significant 14-year age gap. Since his birth, I've been taking care of him alongside our mom. We used to be a close-knit family of four: mom, dad, Tristan, and me. But one day, tragedy struck our happy family. I was 18 when it happened. We were out shopping, and on the way back, the car's tire blew out, causing us to crash hard into a wall. That accident took away our dad, who was driving, and our mom, who was in the passenger seat. I ended up with a lasting injury on my legs from being trapped in the back seat. Miraculously, Tristan, who was sitting next to me, came out unscathed. Our real struggle began from there. With our parents gone, it was just the two of us trying to make a life. Although we received support from our grandma and other relatives, we didn't want to leave the house we had shared with our parents. It was a strong wish we both held on to. At that time, I was about to graduate from high school. I decided to forgo college and work instead, hoping to support us. However, reality hit hard. Life was not easy with my mobility limitations from the leg injuries, and my job options were limited. Despite these challenges, I pushed through, working hard at any job I could manage and taking care of Tristan. Since I couldn't attend college, I had a deep desire for Tristan to earn a degree. I worked relentlessly toward that goal every day. It was tough, but watching him grow kept me motivated and encouraged. Eventually, he made it to college. After graduating, he found a job and stepped into the real world. I'll never forget the image of him in a suit, confidently leaving for his first day at work. As time passed, I aged before I knew it, and I turned 40 last month. Tristan and I still live together. Since he started working, he has been contributing to the household finances every single month. I can't help but be impressed by his consistent support. Now in his third year in the workforce, he is 26 and has grown into a responsible young man. Just when I thought he had fully settled into his job, he revealed something unexpected. "Listen, Sylvia, I asked my girlfriend to marry me," he said, all shy and embarrassed. He wanted to introduce his fiancée to me. My heart swelled with joy as I listened to him. I thought he had matured into a good man and was super excited to meet her. She's gorgeous. It was love at first sight for me. She finally said yes after my persistent pursuit. Tristan said, surprising me with his passionate side. As he spoke fervently, I found it adorable and couldn't help but smile. "We're thinking about the wedding once we've saved up some money. For now, we're considering getting the paperwork done and moving in together," he explained. "Well, if you say so, I have no objection. You should introduce her to Grandma and Uncle Jason too," I suggested. He agreed with my suggestion. Grandma and Uncle Jason were the relatives we had been most indebted to. I promptly contacted them, and they were just as delighted. "Wow, he's getting married already. That's great news. It's all thanks to your hard work, Sylvia. Congratulations," they said. I expressed my heartfelt gratitude for their blessings. "We couldn't have made it without your support. Thank you so much." I choked up with tears, remembering how they had silently supported us, respecting our desire to live on our own in the family home. Of course, we wanted to invite them to meet his fiancée. Try to picture what kind of person she was. Given his enthusiastic pursuit, I had no doubt she was a wonderful girl. At that time, I was eagerly looking forward to meeting her without any doubts. The big day finally arrived. Grandma and Uncle Jason were over, eagerly waiting for Tristan's fiancée. "Can't believe he's getting married. I wonder what she's like." Grandma squinted her eyes with a delighted smile. Uncle Jason chimed in. He's always been the type to go all out for his partner. "I hope he didn't fall for some troublemaker." True, he has had this habit forever, going all out for someone he's into. Initially, the other person is happy about it, but eventually, they start taking it for granted. Things either end with him getting dumped or fading out. I agreed. As long as he's happy, I guess it's all good, Uncle Jason concluded. Just as I was pondering, there was the sound of the front door opening. Hey guys, we're here, Tristan called out, heading to the entrance to greet them. I found a beautiful girl standing next to Tristan. Her name was Lou, 4 years older than him. She had an elegant figure, and I couldn't help but think she was way too good for him. But then an alarm went off inside me. When we greeted Lou, Tristan said, "This is my sister, Sylvia." "Oh, hi," she said casually. A bit puzzled, I responded with a smile. "Nice to meet you. I'm glad you came. Please come inside. Grandma and Uncle Jason are here too." Assuming she might be nervous, I guided them to the living room. As we talked, I figured out why I felt alarmed earlier. She wasn't exactly the friendliest person. Tristan's always been a bit absent-minded, you know. Hope he hasn't been causing you any trouble. Try to make conversation. Not really, she replied curtly. With the relatives here today, maybe you're feeling a bit nervous? I suggested. No, she responded with just a couple of words. Most people would put on a smile and act friendly in a situation like this, but she maintained a sullen expression throughout. I initially thought she might be nervous, but she remained the same. Trying to ease the tension, I dropped the serious talk and tried to make some small talk. "Unless there's something you enjoy doing?" I asked, trying to lighten the mood. She sighs and suddenly stands up. "There's something I've been wanting to say to you." I was flabbergasted by her sudden confrontation. What she said next was even more unbelievable. "You rely financially on your little brother because of your disability, right? Living off him, you're just trash in this society," she exclaimed loudly. Her words froze me, Tristan, Grandma, and Uncle Jason. It felt like time stood still, and everyone just gaped at her. What the heck did she just say? I glared at her, holding back my rage. Tristan spoke up first in the tense situation. "Lou, what are you saying? You know she's a business owner." Seeing him suppressing his anger was something out of the ordinary. He rarely got mad at others. But Lou wouldn't let up. "A business owner? Well, if you're running a business, it's not going well, is it? After all, you're taking money from him every month. It's weird to do that at your age. I won't let anyone, even you, criticize my sister," Tristan said firmly. "You don't get it. You keep giving your money away. That's why we can't even have a wedding." As I was about to calm the heated situation, Grandma spoke up before me. "Tristan, Lou, why don't you calm down a bit?" With her gentle expression, they started to regain some composure. "We came here to celebrate you too, so stop fighting." Uncle Jason followed suit, and both of them fell silent. "Lou, do you know the history of Sylvia and Tristan?" "I've heard a bit," Lou replied. "All right, maybe I should tell you again. Listen up." Grandma began recounting the story. She talked about the time our parents passed away when Tristan was 4 and my legs were injured at the same time, how I've been taking care of and supporting him since then. When she finished, Lou turned to her with a question. "So why didn't you guys lend a hand? I've heard they didn't want to leave this house. But come on, living just the two of them wasn't realistic." Her words and tone infuriated me. Grandma glanced at Uncle Jason and surprisingly put a smile on her face. "Well, that might be the usual way of things. But you see, we saw their seriousness in their eyes. So we decided to watch over them." At that moment, I understood how she felt back then for the first time. Uncle Jason took over. Of course, we were worried sick about these kids. We tried reaching out to help multiple times, but their determination to live on their own was incredibly strong. Eventually, we decided to watch over them from a bit of a distance, just in case they needed help. Both Grandma and Uncle Jason did exactly that with so much love and compassion. Thanks to them, we've made it this far. Sylvia worked hard at her job for Tristan. After graduating high school, she worked so diligently that you wouldn't have even noticed her disability. I can still see it clearly in my mind. Uncle Jason nodded along. Yeah, thanks to her, Tristan was able to go to college. Grandma added. Lou threw another question. I get that she worked hard to raise him, but what's it got to do with taking money? Regardless of her tone, Grandma calmly responded without getting upset. As Tristan mentioned earlier, she's a business owner. She's not struggling for money at all. Have you heard about that patisserie that's often featured in magazines? Grandma spread out pamphlets from the shop on the table. Lou looked at it with a puzzled expression. Yeah, I know about it, but what's the point? With a slightly pleased expression, Grandma said, she's been running this shop. What? Lou looked shocked. The shop that hired me after high school was initially a small cake shop in my hometown. The cakes were delicious, and I wanted more people to know about them. So I revamped the website, asked influencers and bloggers for collaborations, and actively promoted it. Gradually, it gained popularity, which led to expansion. Now we have 10 stores nationwide. 2 years ago, the owner fell ill, and I was appointed as the new CEO. It's been hectic, but I'm feeling fulfilled. So you see, maybe it's unnecessary to say this again, but Sylvia isn't struggling for money. Having learned my true identity, Lou seemed thoroughly deflated. Then Tristan spoke up. Lou, the money is something I'm forcefully giving to my sister. She looked at him, confused. It's only natural for me to be grateful to my sister who raised me in place of our parents. She gave up going to college for my sake and has been living for me. This is my way to express that gratitude. I'm repaying not just with words but also with my expenses. Hearing this from Tristan for the second time, I felt a special warmth. The first time he mentioned paying me back, I declined, but he awkwardly and forcefully insisted I accept the money. Today, his speech exuded genuine gratitude, and it warmed my heart. I didn't expect to hear something like this from you here of all places. Today, I just wanted to introduce you to my sister and relatives as my fan Kay, because you don't seem so well off even though you're working at a good company. Lou blurted out her true feelings. I instinctively put my hand on my forehead. Oh no, he did it again. Grandma and Uncle Jason rolled their eyes, sharing my exasperation. In other words, he still needs to develop a keen eye for women. Sensing our unspoken thoughts, Tristan told Lou, sorry, but let's just forget about us. We'll call off the engagement. And so, Tristan and Lou parted ways. Her appearance was stunning, but her behavior during our first meeting and the way she insulted me didn't make me want to become family with her. I really don't have a good eye for these things, Tristan mumbled, letting out a sigh of despair. Comforting him was challenging. You're only 26. Why rush into a marriage so soon? Well, I thought about getting married because I wanted to free you. What? I asked, surprised. You've always put me first. I felt that and I'm truly grateful. But I want you to start thinking about your own happiness. So, he was rushing into marriage out of concern for me. Realizing his honest feelings, my eyes teared up. I tousled his hair to distract myself from becoming too emotional. Anyhow, you need to improve your judgment of people. But thanks. Of course, I always wish for your happiness. His words made me feel like all the struggles I'd been through were finally paying off. Reflecting on my life, it's indeed been centered around him since our parents passed away. I've been relentless in my dedication to work, avoiding any troubles for him and concerns for our relatives. My own love life, interests, and leisure activities were all put on hold. There were tough times, moments when I wondered why it was only me. Because of this incident, I finally understood his genuine sentiments towards me. From now on, I'm not going to focus solely on work, but also consider my own happiness and enrich my personal life. Even if something happens to me, instead of taking it negatively, I'll choose to view it positively, believing that embracing a positive mindset will lead to a brighter future. It's not just about me, it will also contribute to Tristan's happiness. From now on, I'm determined to enjoy my life more than anyone else. Your daughter was rushed to the hospital in an emergency. Both she and her baby are in critical condition. I got this shocking call from the OB/GYN where my pregnant daughter was getting her checkups. Apparently, my daughter had collapsed in the snow right outside our house and was found by a neighbor who quickly called an ambulance. I couldn't believe what was happening, but I immediately drove to the hospital. Please let them be safe, God. Please protect my daughter and her unborn child. I prayed. 2 hours later, I arrived at the hospital to face a harsh reality. My name is Grace. I'm 55 years old. My husband passed away in an accident 3 years ago. My daughter, Kaylee, who was already married at the time, was worried about me, but I didn't want to intrude on her new family, so I chose to live a couple of hours away by car. Kaylee, 27, is very patient and never complains about small things. Whenever I called to check on her, she always answered cheerfully, "Everything's fine. I'm enjoying life." Her husband, Blake, is rude and has never treated me with respect. He's always put his opinions before Kaylee's, even during their wedding preparations, which made me wonder if Kaylee was truly happy. I never imagined such a terrible situation. Why was my pregnant daughter out in the snow? Please let her be safe. At the hospital, the neighbor who called the ambulance was with me as I got the details. The doctor in charge approached me. Your daughter is currently unconscious and in very critical condition. Apparently, she was conscious when she arrived at the hospital, but insisted her husband not be contacted and gave them my phone number instead. In the hospital room, held Kaylee's hand and kept calling her name. But sadly, she never opened her eyes again and quietly passed away after a while. I couldn't believe that my dear Kaylee was gone. My body felt heavy with despair, and I couldn't stand up. After some time in shock, I had to call Blake, Kaylee's husband. When he answered, it was clear he was heavily drunk. As soon as I said hello, he mistook me for Kaylee and started talking. "Hey, Kaylee, is all the snow at the entrance cleared? Once you're done, come pick me up in the car." I said, "Kaylee has passed away." He responded angrily, "What are you talking about? Who the hell are you?" I struggled to hold back my tears and told him I was Kaylee's mother. For a moment, he seemed to hesitate, but he refused to believe Kaylee had passed away, convinced that I was lying. "You had Kaylee shoveling snow and took the house key to go out drinking, which led to this cruel outcome." Shoveling snow? How do you know about that? All right, Kaylee must have told you. No, I heard it from the neighbor. They found Kaylee fainted in the snow when they returned from shopping. When they asked what happened, Kaylee said something shocking. You had locked her out of the house before you went out drinking, so she couldn't get to her cell phone inside and lost consciousness in the freezing cold. The house key? Ah, right. I kept it because if it fell in the snow, it wouldn't be found. Don't lie. It seems you told my heavily pregnant daughter to stay outside until she finished shoveling snow. Stop nagging, old woman. Don't interfere in our marital matters. Also, stop making bad jokes about death. Kaylee couldn't just be gone. No matter how many times I explain, you don't understand. Call a taxi and come home immediately. I'm heading to your house too. Let's talk face to face. No way. You and Kaylee are planning to blame everything on me, aren't you? Oh, I feel sick. I'm too dizzy from the alcohol. I'll stay at a hotel nearby tonight. With that, he hung up the phone. My heartfelt words didn't reach his ears at all. I didn't think he could be this unreasonable, But I didn't feel like calling him back either. Pondering what to do next, I, who had lost the strength to drive 2 hours back to my own house, decided to spend the night at Kaylee's. Took a taxi, and when I arrived at Kaylee's house, I found vegetables like green onions and radishes left cut in the kitchen. She must have been preparing dinner just a few hours ago. She was here, and now I can't even talk to her. This is too painful. Kaylee, I'd whispered as I wiped my tears and cleaned up the kitchen. Then I found Kaylee's diary in the kitchen cupboard. Remembering the conversations with the neighbor and the doctor, I hoped it might tell me about Kaylee's life. Desperate to understand why my daughter, who should have been eagerly waiting for the birth of her baby, had to leave us forever, I began reading the diary. The reality documented in it far exceeded my imagination. Kaylee had resigned from her job because her health deteriorated after pregnancy, and she couldn't go to work. Since then, Blake had berated her as a useless wife and a parasite eating into his money. She was forced to cook meals and make lunchboxes every day despite suffering from morning sickness. Not only that, Blake would call her while at work to demand chores, hardly giving her any time to rest. If only I'd realized sooner what she was enduring, maybe Kaylee would still be here, healthy and happy. The diary revealed that even under these harsh circumstances, Kaylee never sought a divorce because of a threatening remark Blake had made. "Don't you dare think about leaving me and becoming free. If we were to get divorced, I, the breadwinner, would take custody of the baby. You wouldn't get to see the child at all. So remember that." He took advantage of Kaylee's fear that she might not be able to raise a child alone, effectively shackling her with invisible bonds. Having finished reading the diary and imagining my daughter's pain, my heart trembled with sorrow, and I couldn't stop crying. I wanted to take revenge on Blake somehow. I wouldn't be at peace until I'd avenged Kaylee. But the diary alone wasn't enough evidence to prove that he was responsible for her death. Despite my search, I found no definitive proof that Blake had cast my pregnant daughter out into the snow. As evening fell the next day, Kaylee's phone, which had been left at home, received a call from Blake. "Hey, Kaylee, stop pretending to be dead. It won't work on me. Make my favorite dish tonight and wait for me at the entrance on your knees." "How many times do I have to tell you that my daughter is gone?" I responded. "If that's true, then show me the proof." "Fine," I replied, quickly hung up, and immediately sent him a photo of Kaylee's death certificate. I figured that even someone like Blake would grieve upon learning that Kaylee had left this world because of him. As expected, he quickly called back. "Do you understand now?" I asked. "So it's true then. Well, there's nothing to be done about the dead. I'll get the life insurance payout, and I can forget about the annoying past and start over. So what about the funeral?" Ah, what a hassle. Faced with Blake's nonchalant delivery of these incredibly cruel words, my hand began to shake with anger. I couldn't let a man like that be the chief mourner. I would send my daughter off to the other world myself. Swallowing my anger, I made a proposal to Blake. "I'll arrange the funeral and act as the chief mourner. You attend as the husband. You pay all the funeral costs, but I get all the condolence money." "Understood." "All right. I'll have to make sure my relatives come. Try and invite as many of your relatives as possible so that I can get a hefty sum." With a cheerful voice, Blake said, "I'll be living in a hotel for a while," and abruptly hung up the phone. Despite knowing the tragic end Kaylee met, he remained unperturbed, showing no remorse toward his deceased wife and unborn child. My heart, devastated by the loss of Kaylee, changed to a desire for revenge against Blake, and a raging fire of vengeance began to burn. I couldn't let Kaylee's pain go unanswered. I would show Blake the hell of this world. I stayed at Kaylee's house until the funeral, preparing everything. Then on the day of Kaylee's funeral, Blake approached me with his hands in his pockets and a sleazy smirk on his face. I'll play the part of a grieving husband who couldn't be the chief mourner. You be your part well. Once the funeral's over, I'll take the condolence money and leave immediately." His words infuriated me, but I prioritized sending my precious daughter off. Both families gathered, crying and saying, "She was so young to leave us. It's heartbreaking. I can't believe Kaylee is gone." After a few words of grief, I then stood in front of the microphone to make a speech as the chief mourner. "Thank you all for gathering here today to remember my daughter Kaylee. The truth is, I started to explain to the entire family how our late-term pregnant daughter had left us." The solemn air shifted to murmurs of shock, and at this, Blake abruptly stood up. "Don't be fooled by this old woman's lies." Kaylee insisted on shoveling the snow herself, ignoring my objections. "That's why this happened." He began to fake tears. I had predicted Blake would react this way, so I opened my daughter's diary that I had brought with me. This is an entry from the day before Kaylee passed away. Blake told me to clean every nook and cranny of the house, but my belly was itching, so I couldn't do it today. He got angry and threw away all the dinner when I was about to eat. "I'm worried if the baby didn't get enough nutrition." That's an exaggeration. I merely slipped and knocked the food off the table. "She's making me out to be the villain." "She's too delusional," he interrupted, but I ignored him and continued reading. "If we divorce, I, who am unemployed, won't be able to raise the child by myself. Blake told me if you don't want to lose custody, you'll be my slave for life." Don't read things that aren't written there. You're causing everyone to misunderstand me. Despite his loud protests, his face was steadily paling. His expression seemed to indicate the truth. He started to come towards me as if he couldn't hold back anymore. But some of our relatives stopped him. "You think you can get away with this? I'll call the police and put you in jail for defamation. Are you not the one who should be arrested by the police? Don't get ahead of yourself. Watch your mouth." His true nature couldn't be hidden, no matter how much he tried. Blake's face glaring sharply at me was pure villainy to anyone who looked. The attendees sighed and murmured, "What a terrible man. The worst kind of man." Oh well, I may have overreacted a bit. Kaylee just wrote about our insignificant spousal quarrels in her diary in an exaggerated way. Please believe me, it seemed he still thought he could talk his way out of this, unaware of the gravity of his actions. I informed him, neglecting a pregnant woman and her unborn child and leaving them out in the cold will result in severe punishment. "You have no proof. If you have it, show it." He looked down on me, snorting with a laugh, seemingly thinking I was just bluffing. "We do have evidence." Before coming to the funeral home, I had checked the dash cam footage from our neighbor's car, which had captured everything. Ah, it's amazing that it's always recording even when the engine is off. Well, I'm about to call the police. As I showed him the SD card from the dash cam, Blake clicked his tongue. Damn. I had already contacted not only the neighbors but also the doctor who had treated Kaylee, asking them to testify. I was wrong. It was my fault. So let's settle this amicably. I'll give you half of the life insurance and the condolence money, so please forgive me. Stop joking around. I lost my daughter, who was more precious to me than my own life. You think you can solve this with money? I hope you experienced the despair Kaylee felt in the cold and harsh outdoors. I immediately called the police and explained the whole situation. They agreed to rush to the funeral home. Meanwhile, the relatives who attended the funeral kept an eye on Blake to prevent him from escaping. You'll be picked up soon. You should atone for what you did to Kaylee before then. Kaylee, I'm sorry. Please save me from the other world. Blake called out insincerely. Then he turned to me and began to grovel pathetically. Mother-in-law, I'll apologize as many times as it takes. Please call the police back and tell them it was a mistake, please. I shook my head firmly, looking at my daughter lying in the coffin. Kaylee was looking forward to meeting her baby. I'll avenge your grievances. Coldly looking down on Blake as he approached, sensing something, his face turned ashen and he started to tremble. No, help me. Blake began to panic, shedding tears and trying to escape. But he was held tightly by his father and relatives, rendering him immobile. He was soon taken away by the arriving police, disappearing in the back of a patrol car. His parents and relatives later bowed deeply to me and my daughter, offering apologies repeatedly. When I glanced at my daughter's face, now resting in the coffin, it seemed to bear a slight smile. Finally, the weight on her chest had been lifted. Kaylee, now you can embark on your journey to the other world without any worries. The dash cam footage and testimony served as the smoking gun, and Blake was put behind bars. He would spend some time in a cold, high-walled prison surrounded by intimidating individuals. Becoming a criminal, he was also fired from his job. Since his parents and relatives have declared their intention to cut ties with him, his future life will undoubtedly be harsh. By the way, I didn't tell Blake, as he never asked, but Kaylee's baby was born safe and sound, and I have decided to raise it. Kaylee had named me as the beneficiary of her life insurance. Though when the child grows up, I plan to pass everything on. I'm thankful that at least the grandchild is safe. From now on, I will pour double the love into this child, mine, and that of my lost daughter. I was supposed to pledge a lifetime of love and become his wife, but my marital life with David quickly turned into a nightmare. My in-laws doted on their son, and he prioritized them over me, treating me as an afterthought and imposing unreasonable demands. I wouldn't let such people ruin my life, so I devised a surprise to punish everyone involved. My name is Alyssa, and I'm 29 years old. I've been married to David for a year now. We work in the same company and often collaborate on projects. Although I don't have a college degree, I have more experience at the company, having been there longer than David. Despite being a high school graduate, my strong sales performance earned me a decent salary. The company values ability over academic background. David, who is capable and highly trusted by his colleagues, was a boyfriend I could be proud of. I fell for him and gladly accepted his proposal, and we happily became a married couple. However, my in-laws began to interfere in our relationship. One day, when we visited their house, my mother-in-law suddenly said to David, "Hey David, are you really okay with marrying Alyssa? You've always excelled in both studying and sports, yet you chose someone as mediocre as Alyssa." My father-in-law nodded in agreement. "Yeah, at first glance, she seems like an average young woman with nothing special about her." David responded, "Ah, that's what you're talking about. It's fine. I love Alyssa." Despite his reassurance, my mother-in-law gave me a sidelong glance that cut deep. I felt worthless, but I had worked hard to take on adult responsibilities. I cursed them in my mind, but held my tongue to maintain a peaceful marital life, avoiding conflict with my in-laws as much as possible. On another occasion, my in-laws started complaining in front of me. "Hey David, are you really okay with your current workplace?" My mother-in-law asked, "Isn't it a place where even high school graduates like Alyssa can work?" David replied, "The pay is good, and I have good colleagues." My father-in-law added, "You're too smart to stay in a place with high school graduates. There must be many other good jobs out there." They tried to persuade David while glancing at me, believing that responding would mean losing. I didn't react, but I was seething inside. What's with that tone? I do my job right, and there's no difference in work whether you're a high school graduate or not. In fact, sometimes I earn more than David does. It's safe to say that I don't have a good impression of my in-laws, who judge based on academic background or appearance. However, they don't physically bully me, and I don't suffer much direct harm. I told David up front that I was a high school graduate, and knowing that, he said, I love everything about Alyssa. I take pride in my achievements at a company that values ability over academic background. Despite my in-laws' disparaging remarks, I always believed David was on my side. However, an incident shattered that belief. One day, out of nowhere, David said something unbelievable. Hey, I've been thinking. I've decided to switch to a different job. What? What are you talking about all of a sudden? Well, I was talking to my parents, and I realized our company even hires high school grads like you, Alyssa. I mean, I have a college degree, so there must be a better job out there for me. Are you serious? You're making fun of both me and the company, aren't you? But it's true, isn't it? There's no need for me to work at a job that even a high school graduate can do. Plus, my mom said she could introduce me to a job through someone she knows. Stop it. We are blessed with a good work environment, and now you say something like this. You're nagging. I finally realized I'm not someone who should be stuck in a place like this. It became clear that his parents had influenced him, and he convinced himself he deserved better. The very next day, without discussing it with me, he submitted his resignation and casually left the company only a year into our marriage. David switched to a factory job introduced by his mother, where his salary dropped to about half of what it was. The only advantage was that it was close to home, making commuting easier. About a week after starting the new job, he began to complain about the factory. That guy, even though he never went past middle school, has the nerve to tell me what to do, he shouted, scattering his clothes around. I stepped in to stop him. Why are you so angry? If you make such a loud noise, it's going to bother the neighbors. Shut up. Why does a university graduate like me have to be bossed around by a low-level middle school graduate? Well, you just started there. It can't be helped. He's your boss, right? I don't care. He can't even study, but he has the nerve to boss me around. Damn it. Who's the real problem here? What can a newcomer do without instructions from the boss? You chose to switch jobs, so bear with it a little. I know that already. Will he be able to continue at his current workplace? How long can he endure the situation? Nevertheless, my admonitions only worsened his mood. Every day became a struggle to soothe him enough to get him to work. My doubts turned out to be right when one day he caused a major issue at the workplace. You broke the factory equipment. I asked in shock. In response, David slammed his hand on the table. It's not my fault. It's that damn boss who pissed me off. But that doesn't mean you should break the factory equipment. That's absolutely unacceptable. What were you thinking? Had no choice. That guy was bossing me around, even though I'm a university graduate. The trigger was when his boss, who only graduated from middle school, criticized David for not working seriously. In response, David insulted his boss's academic qualifications. It was clear to everyone present that the fault was entirely with David, so they sided with his boss. Enraged, David went into a violent rage and damaged part of the conveyor belt, stopping the production line. He was fired and faced a large claim for damages. Since it was a factory his parents introduced, the damages had to be paid entirely by David and his parents. As a result, David lost all his savings, but even his parents' retirement fund seemed to have vanished in an instant. My parents are struggling right now, but they're moving into this apartment next week, David said, leaving me gasping in surprise. Living together. I never heard about this. You're my wife, right? Just listen and keep quiet. This is a done deal. Got it? With these words, he left the room with a bang. A few days later, my in-laws actually moved into our home. Adam was a joke. Living together was absolutely impossible, so I confronted my in-laws directly. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, living together is a problem. Shut up. It's your fault our son couldn't make it at the factory. My father-in-law snapped. That's right. It's because you neglected David's mental care, isn't it? My mother-in-law chimed in. Wait a minute. How is this my fault? Can't you shut up? Our life is a mess because of you. My father-in-law retorted. That's right. If you had done things right, this wouldn't have happened. It's all your fault. So living together is natural, right? Huh. What kind of logic is that? Living together is impossible. Shut up. Our home was rented, and we've already terminated the lease. There's nowhere else to go, they insisted. That's right, we have nowhere else to go other than here. Despite moving in without permission, my in-laws had a lot to say. Even David began to insult me, egged on by his parents. Hey, Alyssa, I married you. You should be happy to be married to someone as excellent as me, shouldn't you? Forget about that. Can't you start looking for a job soon? It's hard on the household finances now that we're living together. What did you say? You're cheeky for a wife. Supporting your husband is a wife's duty, and supporting your husband's family is also a wife's duty, right? I was getting sick of David, who spouted nonsense as if it made sense. Moreover, neither he nor my in-laws helped with the household chores at all. I had a job too, so I couldn't make elaborate meals, and the cleaning inevitably got neglected. No matter what they said, I maintained a cool attitude. It's hard on the household finances. If they're not happy with it, they, who caused the situation, should do it, I told them. I kept this attitude for several days until one day, David finally vented his frustration. Hey, what's with your attitude? You're lacking respect for me and my parents. Enough already. I work every day and do all the housework on top of that. You don't help at all, but you complain a lot. What's with that tone of voice? You don't seem to understand your place, do you? With that, David shoved divorce papers in my face. He had even kindly signed them. What is this? Can't you see? It's a divorce paper. Even a high school graduate can understand that, right? Are you serious? Of course. If you have complaints about me and my parents, then we're getting a divorce. Staring at the divorce papers, David spoke with a triumphant look. Let me tell you, even if you throw it away, it's useless. I have more prepared, understand? If you don't want to be divorced, listen to what I say, you stupid high school graduate wife. In that moment, my rage burst forth. I couldn't stand to be with these people anymore. Since he went to the trouble of preparing it, I'd put it to good use. Clutching the divorce papers, I began to plot my revenge. First, I recorded the numerous insults from David and my in-laws on a voice recorder. When my belongings were deliberately broken, I made sure to document that as evidence. By this time, David had started working odd jobs, but none of them lasted even a week. It was as if he had given up on our family. One day, as soon as David came home, he said, "Oh man, I quit this job too because it was too boring." Huh! Again, you have no right to complain to me. Right, Dad? Mom? My in-laws just nodded with smiles. This was a usual occurrence, but on this day, my father-in-law delivered the final blow. Speaking of which, I've quit too, David's father announced. What? Father-in-law? What are you talking about? That's what I'm saying. I've quit my job. I'm planning to live off you, Alyssa. Wait, what? You see, my son is too brilliant and prideful to work under those who only graduated middle or high school. We're counting on you, Alyssa, a high school graduate, to work hard. Yeah, let's count on our lowly educated Alyssa to work hard, right, dear? My mother-in-law added. What were they even saying? They intended to live off not their son, but their daughter-in-law. I couldn't stand it any longer. With my father-in-law and husband's simultaneous resignation, I decided there was no point in spending any more time with this family. I finally put all my plans into action. The first thing I did was sign a contract for a new apartment. It wasn't for all of us to move in, of course. It was a new place for me alone. However, I needed time to move without my husband and in-laws noticing, so I gifted them a 5-day trip to give me time to pack. Upon receiving the trip ticket, my mother-in-law was thrilled. A trip? Oh, Alyssa, you do have a knack for these things every once in a while. I owe a lot to you all. Are you sure, Alyssa? You can come with us if you like, my mother-in-law offered. No, I have work. Please enjoy yourselves without any interruptions. Really? Well then, we'll take you up on your offer and have a blast. When the three left for the trip in high spirits, I carried out my planned move. During this time, I shipped my husband and in-laws' belongings to a weekly apartment I had booked and canceled the lease on our current apartment. Of course, I bore all these expenses. It was a painful outlay, but I decided to consider it a necessary expense for my revenge. A few days later, my husband, who had just returned from the trip, called me. Hey, what the hell is going on? I can't unlock the door. With a smirk at the sound of my husband's frantic voice, I calmly responded, I suppose I've already canceled that apartment. What? Canceled? What are you talking about? Explain properly. For now, I've stored all our belongings in a weekly apartment nearby. Feel free to do as you wish from there. What? What does that mean? You're always doing as you please. If you get too cocky, you'll pay for it later. Are you threatening me? Should I call the police? Damn it, my husband cursed. How dare you, my foolish wife? I dropped a bombshell. Oh, I'm not your wife anymore. What? Such a selfish act. You think it's acceptable. Taking a deep breath, I spat out, sorry, but I don't need your permission. You've made fun of me for being a high school graduate long enough, and now you've quit your jobs to become dependent. I'm done with you. Enjoy your family life without me. Hey, you must be kidding. I didn't really mean to divorce. Why should I listen to you at this point? We're strangers now. I don't care what happens to you at all. Please wait. You've enjoyed looking down on people, haven't you? I can easily imagine your struggles, and it makes me laugh. Go as low as you can with your family, you trash. I said and promptly hung up the phone. After that, David kept badgering me with phone calls, but I ignored them all. Later, David and my in-laws caused a ruckus at the entrance of the apartment building, dramatically damaging part of the mailbox, which ended up becoming a police matter. Apparently, they were taken away as is. Ultimately, they were asked to pay for the damages to the mailbox, adding to their debts. Truly, they are a hopeless family. The lease for the weekly apartment where I had set their things was about to expire. Since they did not know my new address, they couldn't rely on me. I couldn't help but wonder how David, who quit his job at the same time as his father, and his stay-at-home mother were going to survive from here on out. To make matters worse, my in-laws had even canceled the lease of their rented family home. I could almost see them sinking into a bottomless swamp. I couldn't help but admire my well-executed plan. I don't know how they're going to survive from here on out, and frankly, I don't care. But it's clear their future isn't bright. They brought this upon themselves. On the other hand, I am living carefree in my new home alone. Being able to spend my time leisurely without anyone bothering me is the ultimate bliss. For the time being, I don't think I'll be living with anyone else. From now on, I plan to thoroughly enjoy my time free of any worry.